Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another car review. And I just got out of the theater from seeing M3GAN, or M3GAN, as it's labeled. Going into this movie, I was kind of expecting it to be basically like Child's Play 2019, except the doll is a girl. And I wasn't that far off. Well, actually, I was very right on a lot of it. But I was really interested in seeing this one, and I actually got two people that I work with at my job to be interested in seeing it, because they're both called M3GAN. So we were kind of joking around, actually just this morning, about how they're gonna see it, because, you know, they got a movie named after them. But I believe that those two people are gonna see it tomorrow, so I got to tell them how it was in the morning. But when I first saw the trailers like a few months ago, I mean, I instantly made the connection that like it's basically like their version of Child's Play 2019, right? Because the 2019 film was basically like, it was a remake of the original, except that the doll was like an android toy. And, well, that's the exact same thing here. So, I don't even know where to begin here. I mean, the story was alright. I mean, like, it's beat for beat the Child's Play 2019 remake, which in some ways is alright, but in other ways it kind of works against the film, because, like, I mean, the 2019 movie, like, I regularly watch that. Like, that's one of the Chucky movies that I always go back to, aside from, like, the first three and Curse. So, at this point, I kind of basically know the 2019 movie front to back. So, when I first saw the trailer for M3GAN, I figured that that it'll be almost exactly like the movie, and well, I wasn't wrong. There's really only one cast member that I recognize, which technically I didn't even recognize. I had to look her up first, but the aunt, Gemma, she's played by the same person who was in Get Out as the white girlfriend, the one who lures the main character to like her family's house or something. I don't know. I haven't seen Get Out. It's on my list. I just keep pushing it on the back burner. But so she's the only kind of cast member that I recognize, but I think she does a great job playing Gemma. Whoever played Katie did a pretty good job in playing like a young girl who lost her parents and kind of has attachment issues, which I'll bring that up in a minute. But most of the cast does all right. There's this one like douchey boss, Gemma's boss, I mean, who's kind of a bit of a dick. He's one of those guys where where you kind of like want to hate him, and like you kind of root for him when he finally dies. Everyone else is a bit of a blur. One thing that I do kind of wish this movie kind of did was like make it rated R to actually show a lot of the deaths, like, because I mean, for what they did, for what they could do with the movie being PG-13, they do show a few things, like that one scene in the trailers where M3GAN rips off a dude's ear. They sort of show it, but like it kind of cuts away from like actually ripping it off. But in the next shot, it shows M3GAN holding up the ear. So there's that, I guess. But it's just things like that, where like kills are kind of like sort of cut away a bit, where like it shows the kill happening, but it doesn't show like the actual gore of it, or it like cuts away to something else in the background. And with the gnarly kills that it has in the film, I kind of wish that they would actually shown it. What the hell? I kind of wish that hopefully there's like an unrated cut that they make, because I mean it basically is like James Wan's version of Child's Play. Which, speaking of that, the film, I don't think this was a product of the movie being PG-13, but there was only really like 2 creepy scenes that I remember in the film. The first one is that scene where M3GAN rips off the guy's ear and then like chases him in the woods, where like she freaking bear crawls towards him, which was shown in the trailers. And then there's another scene towards the end where I'm trying not to spoil it, but there's a scene in the trailer where, not in the trailer, like towards the end of the film, where M3GAN gets damaged. So for a solid like 5 minutes or so, like she kind of moves all like janky, where it's sort of like where her body is sort of like contorting a bit, and it kind of and at the same time like the lights are flickering on and off, so it kind of looks something straight out of the Conjuring films, which I guess makes sense since James Wan is behind the Conjuring movies. But those are the only 2 scenes in the film that I remember actually being like a little bit creeped out by, but like not actually like full-on horror. Because everything else in the movie, at least to me, felt a little bit silly or funny. Like, I laughed a lot. I laughed a lot in this film, even at some of the scenes that are supposed to be scary. Like, like that one scene in the trailer where M3GAN is like dancing in the hallway before she grabs like the blade of that paper cutter. I mean, I was laughing the whole way through, so was everybody else in the audience with me. Even at some parts that were supposed to be scary, like, I still laughed at it, and maybe that's just because, like, I've just grown accustomed to, like, horror movies. But, I don't know, everyone else in the theater was laughing with me, so I don't think I was all that off. Aside from it not being like that big of a horror movie, at least I didn't think so. I mean, the film really felt more like a commentary about like sort of like consumerism and corporatism, which is kind of like what Child's Play was originally as well. But here it was a little bit more confrontational about, because like, I mean, from the very get-go, the movie the movie starts with a commercial, and it actually took me out of the movie for a second, because I actually thought that like we were seeing another commercial in the theater that like the movie theater usually plays before we actually see the movie, and then it took me a second to realize like, oh, the commercial is part of the movie, because the commercial is from the toy company that Gemma works at. But they push really hard on that message about like about kids being like too addicted to technology, growing too attached to their toys. Workaholic adults aren't spending enough time with kids, which, I mean, a lot of that might have been a little bit on the nose, but I think they kind of weaved it in a way where, like, it didn't feel like it was beating you over the head way too much. But for what it's worth, I think the film still did a good job with that, until, like, the very end when Gemma finally admits that that the child Katie is more important to her than her work. So I think that was a nice little arc. There's only about there's only like 3 things that I can really think of that were a little bit of negatives in this film. And the first one, well, so 2 of them are kind of like spoilers. The third one is kind of like the third one is kind of like 2 things. Like, one, like I said, it basically is a rip-off of Child's Play, just that the doll's girl instead of a boy like Chucky. And then the second half of it is that like it's rated PG-13 instead of R, where I kind of wish that they'd like go the extra mile, or at the very least like push the envelope a little bit further. Because like I mean in the theater I didn't realize this until I walked out, but I think this one family like brought their little kids to see it, and like when I walked out of the theater I could hear them like quoting the movie, so like they clearly weren't scared by it. So interestingly enough, like I mean this is probably a movie that you can take your kids to see, or at least that's what I got out of it. But so there's one thing that I had against it. The second one is sort of a spoiler, but it kind of happens really early on, and it's a bit of a plot hole that that very early on, I think it's Gemma or whoever who like dropped. Oh yeah, that's right. So during the whole testing thing where they're testing out M3GAN, and something comes up about how I think Gemma mentions about how like Katie's parents died in like a car crash in the snow, which happens like in the first few minutes. And Gemma mentions it from M3GAN, like just offhandedly. And M3GAN starts talking about like, well, how did Katie's parents die? What is death? And then she starts researching like this whole this whole thing about how like what death is, and like everything's gonna die, and like humanity has been killing themselves for like thousands of years just to make themselves feel better. Like it honestly felt like it was pulling something straight out of Avengers Age of Ultron, which they loop around back to at the end of the film, interestingly enough. Because like M3GAN brings it up again and basically uses that to justify her killing people to make Katie feel better. Which another thing that they kind of borrowed from the Child's Play 2019 remake is that, like in Child's Play 2019, M3GAN mostly kills people who she believes are threats to Katie. So, but anyway, back to this little thing about like M3GAN learning about death and everything. Gemma's co-workers talk about like how M3GAN shouldn't be asking this kind of stuff. She shouldn't be kind of learning this kind of stuff. And Gemma like flat out says like, oh, I didn't have time to put in the parental controls. And then later in the film, they're questioning like, oh, well, how is M3GAN like learning all of this stuff? Like, she shouldn't be able to do this. She shouldn't be able to learn how to like basically override Gemma's like user controls or whatever. When Gemma stated basically at the beginning of the film that she never put parental controls in there. And I mean, I get that they kind of drove home that Gemma's basically a workaholic, but they basically drove that point home that Gemma's a workaholic, and that she and that she probably didn't have time to look over everything. But I mean, you really should have put in the parental controls basically like the moment you realize that it didn't happen, like basically in that same scene, you know? And if she did, then I might have missed it, I don't know. But I don't think I'm wrong on that. Because, like, at least with the movies that I mentioned, like Child's Play 2019 and Age of Ultron, where, like, where an AI robot goes homicidal, they sort of have that excuse where, which admittedly is also a little bit of an issue, where, like, where Tony and Bruce, like, leave the lab in Age of Ultron and let Jarvis take care of Ultron, which Ultron learns about humanity, he gains sentience, he thinks he destroys Jarvis, and then he attacks the Avengers, right? So he gains sentience because of the Chitauri technology. So there's that. Child's Play 2019, in the opening few minutes, they have like a disgruntled employee, like in a sweatshop or whatever, like purposely turn off the safety protocols, right? Well, M3GAN doesn't have either of those excuses, because they flat out say that the creator, Gemma, never put in parental controls. And like I said, I'm pretty sure she never rectified that in the film. And then she's wondering how, like, M3GAN is capable of doing all of that crap, where she basically, like, overrides the technology in Gemma's house. She's able to control a car, control, like, alarm systems, so that she can, like, quickly kill people, all that kind of crap. So, I don't know, at least I saw that as a big plot hole. And then another one, which is also a little bit of a spoiler, but, like, it's really minor, is that the boss, David, he's got this assistant named Kurt, I think. And there's this one little scene where Kurt is, like, downloading the files for M3GAN to sell to a different company, which, I mean, that was a pointless scene, because it was never brought up until M3GAN actually kills the guy, and, like, we don't see a different company, like, creating new dolls or anything. Which, I don't know, maybe that'll happen in a sequel, if there is a sequel. But as of now, like, they kind of added in, like, a pointless scene that lasted about a couple minutes that was never brought up again until the guy actually died. Or, I don't know, maybe I'm looking too much into that. But aside from that, it was great. I mean, the third act was especially awesome, because, like, that's when M3GAN basically goes, like, full-on slasher villain. And that's when, like, they really borrow from other horror franchises, especially, like, Child's Play and Evil Dead. Like, I remember, I think I read an article or whatever, or, like, a post or something where the person who plays Gemma and James Wan and the producer, Jason Blum, which, by the way, this is a Blumhouse film, they all said that, like, if Chucky and M3GAN got into a fight, they're pretty confident that M3GAN would win. And I'll be honest, I'm a Child's Play fan, and, like, so I'm biased. I said that, like, that Chucky would most likely win. But now, after seeing the movie, and if they ever do a movie, because I think that I read somewhere that Don Mancini wants to do a crossover with M3GAN. I'm not sure if Blumhouse would allow it, though, because, I don't know. I mean, it's possible, because technically Chucky and M3GAN are both properties of Universal. But I'd say that M3GAN has a decent enough chance, because, like, the way that they fight, the way that Gemma and Katie destroy M3GAN, like, it takes a lot to kill that doll. Like, I was kind of basically what they had to do to, like, basically destroy it by the end of the film. Like, I kept thinking back to the first two Child's Play films, where, if you remember, like, just how much it took to kill Chucky either of those times. Like, I mean, that was a really tough fight, because, like, I mean, speaking of the Evil Dead thing, like, at one point, like, Gemma uses this, like, hedge trimmer saw thing, and uses it on M3GAN, and, like, it takes out, like, a lot, I mean, I think it does a lot of damage to It does a lot of damage to Megan, but for the most of it, it just shears off part of her face. But for the most part, like, she's still kicking after that. So that doll really was indestructible. Because funny thing is, like, at one point, Megan starts singing, like, the song Titanium, which Megan sings, I think, 2 or 3 times in this movie, and each time I just busted out laughing. But on a serious note, whoever was, like, doing the singing for Megan's character, they actually did a pretty good job with the singing. I'll give them that. It was still funny, though. But it was pretty appropriate for Megan to sing Titanium at one point, because I think that's exactly what the doll was made of. Anyway, but all in all, it was a great film. Oh, before I forget about that, another really good thing that I will give the movie points for is that, like, during the opening, like, 15 or 20 minutes, like, there's a lot of foreshadowing to, like, where the movie's gonna go, like, what it's going to, who's gonna die, who and what, is gonna die. And, like, what all, like, Megan's going to do in the film. Like, even the, like, rehearsal pitch that Gemma was gonna have for Megan, she basically lists off all of Megan's capabilities, what she can do, and, like, what can or cannot hurt her. And, yeah, it basically sets up, like, a lot of story beats that's gonna happen later in the film. Don't know if that's a spoiler or not, but oh well. But then that foreshadowing also kind of is a little bit iffy at one point, because, like, this kind of goes into what I was saying about the whole, like, there's parts of the movie that are creepy, but, like, not, like, full-blown horror, at least not what I was thinking. Because, like, I get that's PG-13 and you can't go exactly all out, but, there's a lot of times where, like, there's just some jump scares that just don't feel earned. Like, there's a couple jump scares with a dog, of all times. Like, there's 2 specific scenes where they have jump scares with a dog. And, yeah, it made me jolt in my seat, but after that, and I realized, like, it was just, like, a neighbor's dog, who eventually gets killed, by the way. I don't know, it was just weird, but all in all, it's still a pretty solid movie. I stand by what I said, that it's basically a ripoff of Child's Play 2019, but for what it's worth, it is still pretty good, and I wouldn't mind seeing it another time. But that's really it for me. Like, if you guys are fans of James Wan and his work, like, definitely check it out, because I don't think he's made one exactly like this. Annabelle doesn't count, because, you know, in this movie, the doll is an android. If you're fans of Chucky, like, definitely check it out, because, like, it basically is, like, a clone of Chucky. Oh, and speaking of, I do still think that Chucky would still pull a win over Megan, because based on how nearly indestructible he was in the first 2 films, and in the 3rd film as well, and with the fact that now, because of, like, Cult of Chucky in the TV series, he can also split his soul into, like, multiple dolls. So if anyone ever makes, like, a duplicate or anything of the original doll, then, like, he can just put his soul in that. So he's got that leg up on Gemma. That leg up on Megan. Unless if they decide to go the route where, like, Megan can, like, upload her consciousness into, like, into a duplicate doll. But I'm not sure if they're gonna go that route. But anyway, as I was saying, still a pretty solid flick. I think it's a great first horror film for 2023. And I'm excited to see what else the year gives us. But that's it for this review. Definitely check out the film, and see you guys in the next one.